It's a hot, sticky day in Doofy land. Perfect weather for sitting in the shade and making episode 21 of the Doofy Doo talk through of Shiren the Wanderer. This episode I will continue doing some puzzles, check off a few more of these globally defined boxes, and finish up talking about the sense of accomplishment that games give their players. This puzzle is actually interesting because it reveals one of the very situational secrets to the game. Normally, if you throw an item at a flame guy, it will just get burned up, but when you're wearing the pitcher's armband, everything you throw goes through the walls, so items you throw will actually go through the flame guy. If I eat this dragon herb, I can level up the flame guy and then kill him with another one, get a little bit of extra experience, but it's pretty rare that you get a chance to use that ability. And honestly, if you are the slightest bit absent-minded, the pitcher's armband is like the worst item ever, because you end up throwing something away that's really important, like a melding jar. I am the world's most absent-minded human being, so I immediately drop any pitcher's armband I find. I don't even sell it. I don't even like the idea that I might accidentally equip one. Alright, this puzzle... I think I remember. That little, pickpocket is going to hang out on that bag of Gaitons, so it becomes part of the level geometry. Oh yeah, I can walk around the pickpocket and then knock that— Oh! My left thumb just went rogue there for a second. My right brain must have shut down and started following the path of achievement. Alright, this time I'm sure to get it. That mistake actually segues nicely into one of the most important differences between the path of achievement and the path of competence. If you remember last episode, those are my names for the two basic ways you can give a gamer a sense of accomplishment in a game. The path of achievement is mainly time dependent, at least progress along the path is. So if you keep playing a game, you're going to move along the path of achievement. You're going to make progress. You're going to get that steady drip of achievements. If you can follow basic directions, if you can regurgitate whatever instructions the game is giving you or simple techniques that the game is telling you to do, then you're going to progress along in the game. In contrast, in order to progress along the path of competence, you have to explore intelligently. You have to be creative. You have to be observant. You can't just spend time and not think about what you're doing. An extreme example of a game that follows the path of achievement is Progress Quest, which is of course a parody. Oh, speaking of not thinking about what you're doing, I forgot that these guys would actually walk around the water when I walk down here. But yeah, Progress Quest is a parody of a lot of massive multiplayer online RPGs, where a bulk of the game just happens automatically, and if you just pump in your hours, you really don't have to think about what you're doing. You're gonna gain items and stats, and the game is gonna sort of almost play itself. Your only input is time. On the other extreme, I would actually put roguelikes. Progress through a roguelike is not time dependent, it's learning dependent. You can spend 1,000 hours playing Faye's Final Puzzle, and if you shut up your brain and don't think about what you're doing, you will get nowhere. There are two things that people coming to roguelikes from other genres usually struggle with. The first is, let me shoot some arrows here, hopefully, yep, there they are. The first is the realization that the attack verb used by itself without any other items or augmenting verbs is typically the weakest option in a roguelike. In other genres, the basic attack verb is typically the primary verb. It's your go-to move. So you have to unlearn that when you play a roguelike. The second and even more important thing that people struggle with when they first come to roguelikes is the concept of being mindful and deliberate, of slowing down during a critical moment. Gamers accustomed to the path of achievement assume that if they just put in time, that all the learning will happen subconsciously. And that does happen in a lot of genres. But in Shiren, you actually have to consciously think about what you're doing. And when you make a mistake, you have to go back over it almost like a chess or Scrabble player and think about, oh, what should I have done, so you won't make that mistake again. This puzzle is showing you, again, just as the puzzle with the pickpocket, that you can use enemies as part of the level geometry. I remember playing the first Metroid and realizing you could freeze enemies with the ice beam and make them part of the geometry. That just blew my mind as a kid. Another game in which enemies are used as geometry is the game Legacy of the Wizard. You want to talk Stockholm Syndrome. I love that game, but it's completely Stockholm Syndrome. I spent so long trying to beat that game. Try beating Legacy of the Wizard in the age before the internet. That is definitely the most difficult thing I've ever done on the NES, and I've beaten some pretty difficult games. This puzzle is teaching you another important lesson that is kind of unique to roguelikes, that sometimes it's important to unequip and equip items multiple times in a single room. That's a theme you'll see running through Shiren a lot. There isn't a quote-unquote best item a lot of times. The items are situational, so fighting that slime, for example, I just took off everything. So sometimes it's good to be totally naked, so it can actually rust your items. I also would like to say, you get a curseless armband in this puzzle. I have played a lot of Shiren, and I have identity armbands, discount armbands, pretty much every other item. I have a seed of ill luck, an angel seed, an herb of invisibility. I have never ever seen a curseless armband in Faye's final puzzle. Not a huge deal, but I always thought that was kind of weird. In the original game, cursing was not really a big handicap. Only your equipped items got cursed, and the only effect was that you couldn't remove them. All the special effects were still in place. I'll throw this medicinal herb at Faye. Maybe he'll let me get to Faye's final puzzle without forcing me to go through all these others first. But, I think I'll save my scroll of removal here. Maybe there's more enemies down at the bottom. I'm getting ganked by mammals. This is the worst way to die, is at the hand of a mammal. Oh no. Please let there be nothing. Oh, good. I don't know what the point of that puzzle was, really. Anyway, I really like that in this remake, cursing is made much more of a threat. Any item can be cursed and removes all the special abilities, so a curse from a curse girl to, say, an armband of sight or a weapon or a shield can make a huge difference in this game, whereas in the original game it really didn't hurt you at all. I remember this puzzle pretty well. Anytime you're fighting an enemy that has really high defense but really low HP, you can use log to the face to actually kill the enemy. Way back in the first episode, we ran into a pit mammal, which is a leveled up regular mammal, and I said that leveling up really didn't make any difference. It was just a different colored mammal. If you level up a pit mammal though, you get a cave mammal that has a really high attack and a really high defense, but still only has 5 HP. So if you have a knockback staff or you see a log to the face trap, you can actually kill a cave mammal pretty easily. Throwing items at it actually works pretty well too. And they're worth 800... Uh-oh. I stepped on the wrong log to the face. The nerdy bioengineering student in me has to mention that the sleeping animation of the giant enemy crabs is highly illogical. A crab has no lungs, its shell does not flex when it's in a resting state. Also, an exoskeleton of that size would make locomotion impossible. What gives, Chunsoft? Am I supposed to believe that this game takes place on a planet with a minuscule gravitational constant? Also, the blades on the helicopter backpack of the nerdy birds are entirely too short to support a creature of that size. Hey crabs, you guys want to discuss biomechanical impossibilities? Maybe? No? Alright, see you later. The rice changer though makes complete sense to me, of course. Who hasn't been vomited on by some faceless being and then reached into their pocket and found their car keys turned into a giant rice ball? Happens all the time. This puzzle is teaching you how to use the doppelganger staff to level up an enemy multiple times. If you get a doppelganger that's powerful enough, the enemies will spend a long time trying to kill it, and that gives you extra time to escape through the stairways. I'm gonna pre-cut a couple escape pathways, and then I will try to level up this Gator Scissorhands as much as possible. There we go. he should kill, yep, doppelganger. Now he's so strong that if I make him a doppelganger, it'll take forever for the other guy to kill him. That'll give me enough time to cut my way to the stairs. I should have cut it up here, but he's so strong it doesn't matter. That puzzle also a nice metaphor for US foreign policy in the Middle East. Think about it. Oh, Faye, you sly bastard. Sneaking history lessons into your puzzles. Oh, I think I remember this puzzle. I think it's a landmine puzzle. Let's see. Yeah, this puzzle, speaking of the Middle East, is a nice metaphor for the strategy of Islamic fundamentalists. It's been a while, but I'm pretty sure you can only pain share with one enemy at a time. But just to check it, I'll use it on all of them at once. I don't think they all take damage at once. That would be kind of broken. Let's see here. Yeah, just the last one took damage. So I'm gonna intentionally cause damage to myself. Again, stepping on and off. I'm not gonna check underfoot. Way back in, I believe it was episode 13, I said that occasionally it was a good thing to have a little bit of uncertainty in your feedback, a little bit of randomness. And it turns out that people get a sense of accomplishment from positive feedback that's randomly distributed amongst a bunch of negative feedback. It gives you kind of a sense of being skillful, and Vegas casinos know this. I actually appreciate this. I feel good. I think if every item in Shiren had its own sprite, or the traps tripped 100% of the time, the game just wouldn't be quite as fun. So I do appreciate a little bit of uncertainty. I wonder what the snakies are thinking about Shiren. Like, hey man, please, stop stepping on that landmine trap. Ouch! Cut it out, man. I always thought it would be an interesting addition to Shiren if the enemies were able to regain HP like Shiren, at different rates depending on the monster, but then this puzzle potentially would be a no-go. But yeah, I think a little bit of randomness in item drops and traps is actually a good thing, especially if you're testing risk management skills, because there are always things that are going to happen that are out of your control, and how you deal with those things is an important skill to master. It's a little bit of a paradox, but in order to test someone's adaptability, you actually have to make the game a little bit more luck dependent. One thing I cannot stand though is grinding for rare item drops. That happens a lot in Monster Hunter. I have a lot of respect for Monster Hunter. It's mainly skill based, it mainly follows the path of competence rather than the path of achievement. But by requiring you to repeatedly fight the same enemy in order to get certain item drops, it just completely turns me off. Later on, I'll show you how you can grind phase final puzzle for rare items, and we might even have to do that to get through some of the post-game dungeons quickly, but I hate that so much. Hey, I did make it through. I can't stand mindless grinding for items. A lot of massively multiplayer online RPGs are guilty of this, including the most popular one. Even if a game has a lot of other things going for it, if grinding for loot is integral to the gameplay, it's a deal breaker for me. That's enough puzzles for today. I'm gonna head out on another adventure. Maybe I'll check in with the biggest bee in town. Truly, you were a worthy foe. Well, that wraps up the third reason people play games, for sense of accomplishment. In general, I favor following the individually defined learning-dependent path of competence that tests your adaptability and creativity over the globally defined time-dependent path of achievement, which tests your ability to follow directions. Next episode, we'll start talking about the fourth and final reason people play games. I wonder what it could be. Come on, Skull Mage, won't you swing your staff and make my actions happen twice as fast? Or I might have to take my shield off and punch some green slimes. Oh yeah.
An exoskeleton of that size would make locomotion impossible.